Hi everyone, GM. Hope you're all doing really well. Hope you've had a lovely weekend. And if you celebrate Easter, hope you've had a great Easter weekend. So nice to see all of you join today as well, as we're kind of getting into the final workshop of the Scaling Web3 Hackathon. We're in week number 2, so that just means that obviously watch this workshop, get inspired, and then hopefully by this week you should start building. As usual, let me know if you have any questions about specifically the kind of structure of the program, or if you need any more resources. Always happy to help. And I'm going to invite Sasha to join the stage now, who will be giving you a wonderful introduction to Etherlink. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about that topic specifically. So please do let us know in the chat whether you're interested in building on Etherlink, and if so, what you think you want to build, all that good stuff. If you have any questions, please do pop them in the questions tab on the left-hand side, just so they don't get lost in the chat. Hi, Sasha, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Clara. How are you doing?
I'm all good. Feel free to get started whenever you're ready. I don't know if you have some slides. Maybe you want to share your screen. Yeah? Cool. In the meantime, everyone, please let us know how you're doing. If you know what you want to build already, if you've teamed up, or if you're going solo, give us an update on how you guys are getting along.
Thank you, everyone, for your very valuable time today. I hope you're enjoying the Encode Club Hackathon so far. I know that Encode Club have done a great job, so I want to thank Clara and the team again for, first of all, organizing everything, getting everyone here, and also for having me today. So I would like to talk a little bit about Etherlink. Quick, looks like the game Tanks, so we've got the chat. Sorry, I just love that game, the Tanks from 1990s. But anyway, sorry, I'm going to close the chat. Any questions that you would like to ask? I will have some time for some questions at the end. It's not. I'm going for about 15 minutes. I explain what Etherlink is, why maybe you should build on Etherlink, and what the cool features of Etherlink are. Because like everyone else, maybe I'm a little tired as well. But there's so many new EVM chains, so let's get into why Etherlink is special and why it's different. And you can believe me, you can choose not to believe me, but that's up to you. It's as good a job that I can do. So, what is Etherlink? I think best to start with not what is Etherlink, but maybe with the question of why Etherlink, right? And I think it's very clear that the EVM has quite a good network effect. In Q4 2022, I don't know if everyone was around for that. I know there's lots of new faces here at the Encode Club Hackathon, which is fantastic. It's not too long ago I was around in crypto, and it was the bear market. Q4 2022, if you recall, is the FTX stuff, and it was a bear market, and you'd think that deployments would be low. A good metric for developers on the testnet or on any network really in blockchain is how many smart contracts are being deployed. And even in Q4 of 2022, we had millions of contracts. So the EVM is very popular, and for better or for worse, it has network effect. So that's an interesting stat. We can take that forward. And as I mentioned, there are like 8 trillion EVM chains at this point. These are just some of them, right? And I think there's that little Venn diagram in the bottom right, which really goes to show you, like, for as a developer, it's very hard to keep focused. You have this grant at this chain giving you this thing to publish your app there. And it's great if your application is multi-chain, which is fantastic. But then it kind of just ends up being very fragmented. Big apps kind of choose sides and end up being on certain app chains and not others. And this isn't something that Etherlink solves, but it's just a general critique of the EVM space in general. But you know what? Free market competition, that's always good. So there's many EVM chains. So where do we go from there, right? And why Etherlink is the main question today. Well, let's start off with a very simple explanation of what Etherlink is. Maybe you've heard of Tezos before. If you haven't, that's absolutely fine. Tezos is a chain that launched in 2018. It has some very cool features, But for the time being, let's stick to the difference between Ethereum and Tezos and Solana. And by the way, if you're not familiar, Etherlink is built as a layer 2 on Tezos. It's actually built by the Tezos ecosystem and the teams behind it. So as we're all developers in the chat, we can see that obviously Ethereum has the EVM, and this is the machine that takes instructions from your Solidity smart contracts and actually executes them, right? You want to transfer some Ether, you want to update some state and storage or delete some and so on. That's what the EVM handles. Solana has its own, the Solana virtual machine, and Tezos has one called the Michelson VM. Now, these are all different VMs. They come with different pros and cons. And let's actually hone in on the two here, which is EVM and the Michelson VM from Tezos. So Michelson itself is an assembly-based language. And, at least it's words, right? On there, don't worry if it's complicated. I also don't really understand it, but it's an assembly-style language. And there are much higher languages in Tezos called SmartPy or Lego. It's like Python or JavaScript-based languages. And that's what they compiled down to Michelson. So you see there below them. And Michelson is actually deployed on-chain. Now, when you actually compile an Ethereum smart contract written in Solidity or Viper, for example, other cool ones like FE or Huff or Yule, if you're going for a lower level one, we actually get EVM bytecode. And that's absolute gibberish, right? Like we couldn't try to read that even if we wanted to. Though I did have a friend at one point who could actually read some of this. I think if you can split it up into certain blocks, you can get used to it. He was immense. So I don't think most people, and myself included, can actually read that. So that's, using Solidity, for example. So the problem, obviously, for Tezos, in Tezos's eyes, they have a superior VM. It is more secure. It allows for formal verification. It allows for many other things. But it doesn't have the network effect, right? And if you try and deploy Michelson to Ethereum or EVM bytecode to Tezos, the change is going to be like, nah, I don't understand this, right? This is not for me, not going to work, right? All right, that was a lot of information. I appreciate that. So we'll take a quick step back and have a look at the summary, right, so far. So we know there are lots of Ethereum developers. We know, like yourselves in the chat, we know they are locked into the EVM for better or for worse due to network effects. And I do raise a good point, especially if you're new to Ethereum and the blockchain space, smart contracts, don't think that the EVM is like the be-all, end-all. Of course, it's very useful to learn everything you can, but there will be a new VMs, and even EVM Plus is coming out from Arbitrum now. So this is something that people know about, right? Like it is limited as it comes to in terms of VMs. And for these developers who want, using Ethereum developers, we could offer them a better experience with a Tezos VM, but they can't do it without complete rewriting these languages that they don't know about, called SmartPy or Lego or Michelson, whatever. They can't do it. They're not going to waste their time on that. Completely understood. So a question that I think the Tezos ecosystem asked itself, last year we introduced, very similar to Ethereum, optimistic rollups. They are different to Ethereum in the sense that they are automatically enshrined. Vitalik recently had a blog post about enshrining rollups, but on Tezos they are enshrined. Tezos itself is a very agile blockchain and actually has upgrades every 3 months to the core protocol. And actually that's all done on chain. So the validators, all vote. A software upgrade is proposed, kind of like a DAO, but imagine like built in directly to the protocol, and the DAO members are the validators. And that means that there's been, I think, 15 or 16 upgrades to Tezos since its launch in 2018. So it's much more agile. So they built in rollups as a core feature of Tezos L1, and that comes with a lot of benefits in terms of speed, scaling, security, and so on. Basically, smart rollups, as we call them, or optimistic rollups, are first-class citizens alongside smart contracts. So whereas in Ethereum, the smart contract is basically a layer 2, right? Arbitrum and Optimism settle to a smart contract. Tezos L2 is actually its own first-class citizen. So we asked the question in the Tezos ecosystem, with these smart rollups, with these optimistic rollups, could a Tezos L2 provide an Ethereum ++ experience? Now, the second question is, what unique selling points, or USPs, could be leveraged using Tezos' strengths? Now, Tezos is very agile, as I just mentioned, it upgrades. So maybe a layer 2 could upgrade very quickly, to improve the EVM if we are EVM aligned. We can improve the EVM. For example, the quote from Arbitrum that EVM equivalence isn't the ceiling anymore, it's actually the floor. How can we improve the EVM whilst maintaining all EVM compatibility? And number 3, how can the benefits to the overall Tezos ecosystem be maximized? But realistically, of course, the Ethereum ecosystem. If we're building an EVM chain, how can we maximize these, right? So in came along Etherlink. So Tezos is there, Ethereum is there, the Etherlink logo in the middle. And as I mentioned, thousands of these chains, like let's focus on this first question with these thousands of these chains. At the moment, as I mentioned previously, it's not the most ideal experience, bridging and yada, yada, and so on and so forth. That's not something Etherlink necessarily can solve, but what can solve is build a very user-friendly chain, right? And how do we go about that? What are the problems we have currently with these layer 2 rollups, optimistic rollups in Ethereum, and how can we do that? So to actually zoom in on that a little further, let's take the number 2 chains. This TVL is actually quite an old screenshot. I think this might have even been pre the pump in the markets in November. So I think the TVL and Arbitrum is over 10 billion or something now, but don't quote me on that. But still, number 1 and number 2 chains, Arbitrum and Optimism. Let's take a look at them and see, what things are good and what things aren't so good, right? To answer this question. So in terms of things that are good, we all use, lots of us use Arbitrum and Optimism and they work, right? It's a good step forward. But in terms of things that are bad, blockchain is about censorship resistance. It's about running decentralized networks so that no one can control and not necessarily basically rug you or take the money that's yours through private key and public key systems. And Arbitrum and Optimism are noble efforts to scale Ethereum, very good efforts and fantastic technology, but they do have they're not completely infallible, right? Arbitrum stopped recently because they forgot to top up their money for gas on L1, which means that there is someone to top up the money for L1. You think that for a chain worth over $10 billion or something, or even 2 billion, that maybe they would figure out a way of getting around that. And of course, the Arbitrum DAO has come a long way, and the foundation and the Security Council and so on. But it just goes to show you that there is still like a centralized point of failure there. I mean, both of them run centralized sequences, right? I think the right-hand side of this slide, you can see the bottom is basically July 2021 Optimism launching, and then October 3rd, 2023, they actually, for the first time, implement a very alpha version of fault proofs or fraud proofs. Now, the whole point of optimistic rollups is to have a fraud proof or a fault proof system. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. It's just basically a way to contest if something's wrong on chain, we can contest it. Now, that's the optimistic in optimistic rollups, and the chain is called Optimism, right? You should be able to see my point here, that maybe 2 years, maybe you should have launched that a little early. I'm all for moving fast and breaking things, but these are centralized chains, and you are trusting these companies, but like OP Labs and Arbitrum a bit better now with this decentralization, but you are trusting these companies with your money and everything you put on there. And you know what, if that might be also fine, right? But we do want to offer users in the free market capitalism we have in the market, we do want to offer users an alternative that's better, right? And we think we can do that with Etherlink. Yes, just more and more stuff about Arbitrum being a multi-sig. Thankfully, the AIP1 was voted against and actually ratified. The DAO was like, oh, actually, we're just going to do it without your say-so, but that has changed since, so all good. Arbitrum, as I mentioned, have improved their decentralization, though not to the stage we would like. So Etherlink appears, right? And we now have these like 3 chains. I'm going to put Etherlink first here. And why would you want to use Etherlink, right? So we can look at this little table here, and this is all available at docs.etherlink.com. And if you want any information, by the way, about Etherlink, just head over to etherlink.com. You can find the Twitter, the docs, and all the other cool stuff to do that if you haven't already. And on there, in this little table, we can see that our sequencer is decentralized, which I'll get into in a second. And we have Optimism and Arbitrum. The sequencer comes with some trade-offs, right? We're a little slower than Arbitrum, but we do post much more frequently on L1. So we have a good offering, right? We're actually one of the world's first decentralized sequencers. Basically, a sequencer is the way that Arbitrum and Optimism offer really quick transactions is that it's just one big computer. Instead of running validators on L1 like you do with Ethereum, there are no validators on Arbitrum, right? There's just one big computer that Arbitrum runs. And you just trust it, right? Which is good and bad, right? It comes with good and bad. So in Etherlink's case, we're actually going to have 7 computers, and these are 7 third-party node operators, basic big staking providers, that type of people that are going to run and have a kind of like a small consensus on top, and then post directly to Tezos L1. So, you know, one of them could be an adversarial character, or a couple of them could go down, and your transactions are still going to go through an Etherlink, right? And that's the idea, and just get away from things going down, you losing access to your money and assets and your applications. That's a good reason to use Etherlink. It's uptime, and Tezos in its whole history, because of its strong focus on decentralization on L1, has never gone down, and that's a unique selling point, right? I mentioned just now the decentralization of Tezos, this decentralization sequencer, so high availability, resistance to attacks. If you fail, and this is available in Arbitrum and Optimism, though a little bit more delayed than ours, but users do have the option to submit to L1 of Tezos directly. So there's always an option there to get you, if you want to withdraw, for example, you don't like the use of the chain, we want to give users that option. Secondly, Etherlink is super cheap. With smart rollups being enshrined, it offers a lot of technical benefits. You can read more about this on the docs, and actually the Tezos docs itself at docs.tezos.com. If you click smart rollups, you'll find a lot of information about the benefits of enshrinement and what that brings. But I mean, 1 cent for a complicated transaction is like expensive on Etherlink, right? So, and that's with reasonable demand, right? A load of 200 TPS, basically an ERC20 transfer. These are all benchmark network numbers. We're still in testnet with mainnet coming out later this year, but these are all benchmark numbers. So, you know, don't quote me on these, but this is what we can expect. So it's super cheap. Obviously now we have a Denkun upgrade where the blobs, all the mighty blobs are back, and you get much cheaper L2s. Though we saw base spike to like $100. Thankfully they fixed that. So this is less of a contention point and less of a unique selling point, but it's still cheaper, right? I think I did some swaps on base today, and it was like 5 cents or something like that. So far so good. So the main 3 selling points, I'll just go through them, because one of them I haven't really mentioned as it's coming a little later. But we have the decentralized sequencer, we have the price, and we have this MEV protection. Now, MEV protection is an interesting one. So if you're familiar with Ethereum L1, or if you're familiar with MEV, like Flashbots, then you'll know. But for everyone else, MEV stands for mean extractable value. Used to stand for minor extractable value back when we had miners. And basically, this is the sandwich attacks, front runs, back runs. Basically, when you have a slippage and you're doing a swap, for example, on Uniswap, and you know it goes out of your slippage range or goes very close to paying, like let's say you have a high slippage of 5%. Basically, there's a bot running, someone's trying to make money off your transaction, because it's an open system, an open pool, mempool, where you can see the transaction. You can buy in front of them, sell to them, and that 5% difference, and make a profit. Anywhere where you can make a profit with an automated bot, of course, someone's going to do it. And Arbitrum and Optimism get around this by being completely centralized. But when we're decentralized again and we have some consensus, there are ways to game it. So we have to reintroduce the idea of MEV protection. And because of that, we have made it a priority. We want DeFi to flourish on Etherlink. And, you know, I think many people would like to not be sniped on their transactions and not have slippage go out of range all the time. Like if you use Solana recently, you'll notice that your transaction fails most of the time, especially today with the wormhole airdrop. So yeah, that's something that's coming later down the line. Feel free to read more etherlink.com, docs.etherlink.com as well. So we're really going for a very user-friendly chain, you know, decentralized, doesn't go down, hopefully. That should really be the bare minimum in blockchain, you know, not going down. It's kind of sad that I have to say that, but should be the bare minimum. MEV protection, so, you know, protecting users' funds, trying not to get them to pay too much for transactions. And along those lines, very cheap, right? So just like any of the EVM chain, you can expect very basic, fundamental is the word I'm looking for, fundamental infrastructure from day one. So that's a native bridge. What does that mean? That means Tezos L1 to Etherlink, kind of like the Arbitrum or Optimism bridges from Ethereum L1 to Arbitrum and Optimism, vice versa. We're going to have that. We're building that. We can even transfer NFTs. Tezos is very popular in NFTs, so we're going to have an NFT bridge. You just bridge your NFTs directly to Etherlink and vice versa, which is quite cool, actually. And we're going to have layer 0 support, layer 0 being, of course, a very large chain, bridge with many chains. We're going to have layer 0 support, so you can bridge from any other EVM chain. Say you like Arbitrum and Optimism, and you want to bridge something to Etherlink, you can. There's layer 0. We're going to have some oracles for DeFi stuff. Redstone, API 3 does having people. Stable, I guess I mean staple. Yeah, stable's fine. Staple applications, developer tooling. So that's what I work on a lot as a developer advocate at Tezos, in the Tezos ecosystem for Etherlink. So anything that you can expect that you use and you're used to, we want the same experience on Etherlink. Now, you might ask, why wouldn't it just work? Great question. Well, L2s in Ethereum settle to Ethereum. Our L2, which is EVM compatible, settles to Tezos. So there are some differences when it comes to the tech and the backends. So there are some things we have to fix. Thankfully, we've been working hard on it for the last 6 to 8 months, just on fixing these things, let alone the chain itself. So Hard Foundry, Third Web, full support already, and it's only going to get better from this here. So very quickly, I'll give you if you're excited about Etherlink, or if some things I've said today have resonated. Fantastic, I'm very happy. We have Q1, Q2, Q3 this year. Obviously, we're already out of Q1, so we launched our testnet alpha. We improved the speed, the block times there already. Let's say I think there are a few seconds. We're going to drop them down to that sub-second. And there's a blog. There's social media. We're getting onboarding partners. And we've already started onboarding partners, as I mentioned. There are more. There's the graph and the subscript for indexing, Tenderly and Block Scout, Block Explorer. We got lots more. You can go on the website at etherlink.com and have a look at that marquee strip that shows you all the people we've onboarded so far. So Q2, we're in Q2. That's great. Happy Q2. We are launching an incubator. So if anyone's interested in their hacking, we have post-hackathon, basically care, we're going to have an incubator where you apply and you can do basically grants, right? There's a specific incubator that's very soon, but after that, we're going to do more of them. So if you've missed, even if you've missed this application window here, don't worry about it. Just check out the Etherlink Discord, which you can go to from the etherlink.com. Keep in there, keep up to date. There's grants, there's exciting things happening there. We have a builders program coming out at some point. We're going to have quests. Obviously, a hackathon, one of the hackathons. We have another couple of hackathons coming up, and obviously the one you're at with Encode Club is with Etherlink. We're auditing a lot of final parts before the mainnet open beta launch. So Q2 is going to be the mainnet open beta launch. What does that mean? Well, I think Arbitrum and Optimism are still mainnet beta, so that's what it means. But we will have obviously a much stronger focus on having the features that make it decentralized as soon as possible, and that's what we're aiming for launch this quarter. And finally, Q3, we have some exciting events, especially if you're in the Tezos ecosystem. It'd be great if you're not and want to come over. And if anyone's coming to EthCC in July, on the 12th of July, right after, and, well, actually that week, so that's 8th to 12th or something, we're going to have some side events. We're going to have a TezDev conference, which is the Tezos Developer Conference. We have a lot of external speakers there this year. It's going to be nice and exciting. So if you're around in Brussels this year for EthCC, head over to the Etherlink Discord, shoot me a message. I'm Sasha Aldrick. I'd be happy to get you some tickets. And we're going to add MEV protection. We also have, what's hot in the moment with Celestia, we have, data availability. Tezos has built its own data availability layer. And actually, that will be integrated into Etherlink to get even more speed, more throughput, and even cheaper transactions. So all very exciting for the roadmap. The reason that this can happen, remember, is Etherlink also upgrades, just like Tezos, very often. So you know what? If you build something for this, I think I included it in some of the bounties. If you have some ideas to improve Etherlink, it doesn't have to be just at the application layer. That's an acceptable bounty, some protocol sketches, that type of stuff. That'd be awesome. Either way, thanks so much for listening. This is the etherlink.com website. You can find me on Twitter at Sasha Aldrick, Aldrick, Sasha, Sasha. One word. You can shoot me a message there. I'm on the Discord for Etherlink and Tezos as well. Please feel free to shoot me a message if you have any questions. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sasha. That was really, really interesting. Lots of good comments. in the chat. People were loving the PowerPoint, which I have to say I agree. I think it was really engaging, really fun. I also wanted to say that Encode Club also will actually be in Brussels at ECC, so maybe we'll meet in person, Sasha, but
Yeah, that sounds
also
great.
everyone else who's watching can say hi there as well. Do you have time to answer a few questions?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Let's go for it.
Cool. So I saw that there was earlier in the chat, someone asked whether compiler is different for Tezos, like OCaml.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, great question. We get that question a lot. So in terms of the compiler, I guess you mean the smart contract languages question, but otherwise, indeed, Tezos is written in OCaml. The compiler is different from Ethereum, and that's why we built something like Etherlink. So yeah, indeed, that's why we wanted EVM compatibility for Tezos with Etherlink.
Cool. And then let's see, Fox has asked, which crypto users care about decentralization? Most even don't bother to self-custody. For most crypto users, their crypto is an SQL database row on Coinbase or Binance. The price goes up is by far the most important factor.
That is a very, very good point. Fox, I think was the name. You have a good point. I personally would love for more people to care about decentralization. Indeed, that is the issue at the moment. Personally, I find in the blockchain space, I think people don't care about it until it matters, and I think once it matters, it's too late to worry about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to build towards that decentralization. Even if people don't find this one particularly useful, at least the tech is open source and it's around when we need it. So that's my answer. It's a bit of a cop out, but that's the best I can do.
That's fair. I mean, it's quite a difficult question to answer, but definitely an important point to make and interesting to discuss for sure. Okay, and then what marketing strategies are going to be used to bootstrap TVL and user base on Etherlink?
Great question. I work closely with the marketing team and the DeFi team at Tezos in the Tezos ecosystem here in London, the London office. There are a few things. Of course, partnerships are a great one to get started. Hackathons for developers, that's the focus for us and going forward in terms of developer time. But in terms of bootstrapping TVL, I know the DeFi team is discussing with, like, for example, the Tezos Foundation has a large treasury, so there will be some, don't quote me on that, but I think that's already out in the open, some injection there. I also think in terms of user base, it's a great question. It's, requires a very good marketing team. Thankfully, we've expanded the marketing team significantly in Tezos in the London office. All the general things you can imagine. We have the degenist of strategies down to the most normal Web 2 of ones. But best to ask the marketing team. They're available on Discord. But if you follow the Twitter, you'll probably see most of our marketing anyway, right? So go ahead and do that. But hopefully, all the fun things you see from other chains, we can do in Etherlink as well.
Cool. Yeah, there's been lots of people asking about your Twitter, so hopefully you'll get a nice kind of upstream of people following you.
Nice.
What projects would you like to see for grants?
Oh, great question. Yeah. For my Twitter, by the way, if you find it difficult to spell my name, you can just go to sasha.online, which is my website, and you'll find a link for the Twitter there. In terms of grants, that's a great question. If you go on the Tezos Foundation, if you type in Tezos Foundation grants on Google, you'll see a list of things that they're interested in. You can kind of imagine that Etherlink grants are aligned. We'll have more information about the Etherlink grants and stuff coming up later, but we're looking for DeFi applications and some, really cool ones like DeFi. I guess at this point it's 3.0 or whatever, but some cool ones there. We're looking for, because, we have an MEV and very cheap chain, and with the decentralized ecosystem, it's a strong DeFi focus there. We also, Tezos is very famous for NFTs and the art space, so art stuff is very welcome and always supported. The best that we can. So go ahead. Some cool NFT projects would be fantastic on Etherlink, kind of like utilizing the NFT space of Tezos whilst also being EVM compatible. It's an interesting intersection, so definitely something there. So those are just 2 points, but have a look at that list and feel free to build whatever to your heart's content.
Cool. Yep, I've also shared a link in the chat if you guys want to check it out and read a bit more. Aman asks, which consensus algorithm are you using for decentralized sequencer?
Nice, good question. This is a bit above my pay grade, but on docs.etherlink.com, there is, on the Why Use Etherlink page, there is a mention of Bullshark and Shoal, which are two consensus algorithms that have come out with what used to be DM is now Sui and Aptos. So those type of decentralized consensus algorithms. We will have more information on that once it's like fully clarified towards launch, but there's some information if you're interested in the extra appendixes in the docs. I can actually send a link for that in a second once we're reading out the next question.
Cool. Okay, and then Georgius wants to know, will you add, I'm going to try and pronounce this, EIP 1559 transactions, because I've seen that Etherlink will have similar fee market.
Very, very good question. Indeed, that is a fantastic question. So Etherlink has its own fee model because obviously the layer one is different. We don't have ETH. EIP 1559 is to do with like fee markets and burning. But indeed, I actually have, I think it's going to be on the docs next week. Stay in tune for the Discord. We will have more information on that about the fee model. It's going to be similar to your tools. It's going to look the same. It's going to be EIP 1559. You know, in that Foundry flag, for example, if you use Foundry or Hard Hat, EIP 155 compatible will be fine. The fee market itself is a little different just because of the fact that A, the native token of the chain is XTZ, but that's just on paper different. And B, the burning rates are a little different and so on and so forth. So we're still fully to decide all those parameters. They're still in testing, but it will be very similar for your tooling.
Cool. And then said, you mentioned layer 0 compatibility and oracles for DeFi projects. Are these already available?
Great question. The layer 0 bridge is coming out very soon. It's within the next, I think, 2 weeks. Though, again, don't quote me on that. It's you know how engineering timelines are. So for now, you can use the layer 1 Tezos bridge at bridge.etherlink.com, and that will let you bridge ghostnet funds. Or if you just need ghostnet testnet funds on Etherlink, you can go to faucet.etherlink.com and get some there if you want that. The oracles are live. Redstone's oracle is live. And actually, if I send a link here as well, so I've got to move my camera here a little bit. If I send a link here as well, you'll be able to try Redstone as well. Give me a second. You can see Etherlink here, and you can pull in their feeds for prices and so on. Yeah. And yeah, that's all for that question.
Cool. Okay, and let's see. Sima Pret, I hope I pronounced that correctly, said, regarding the deployment of the contract, I have a few new questions. Number one, all the TXN that are compiled here by the sequencer will be pushed as batches on Tezos layer 1, right?
Yeah, to answer that number one question, indeed. So how it works is so the block times in L2 are quicker than L1 block times, just like in Ethereum. So how it works is they kind of batch them and correct, and they create what's called a block blueprint, and that's posted every L1 block to Tezos. So indeed, if you send a transaction in L2 and it's included, which it usually will be, by the decentralized sequencer, that will get put in the list and sent down to L1 indeed.
Awesome, cool. Okay, number two, for deploying an EVM-based contract, just like how we do it as of now in EVM, we just need to change the deploying chain link to make it compatible on Tezos too, question mark.
Yeah, that's correct. The only thing different in that statement, you're very close, is compatible in Etherlink. So Etherlink is its own chain separate from Tezos. But yes, indeed, if you go on the docs here, I'll send the link. You can, here we go, here's, for example, deploy with Hard Hat tutorial. And there you can see all the RPC things you need and everything. All you got to do, if you already have a contract for pointing to Polygon or Avalanche or something, you take the RPC URL and you replace it with the one we list on the docs, and you're ready to go.
Cool. And then finally, what EIP are currently available / valid for deploying on Etherlink, aside from EIP 721, EIP 20?
Good question. So we are completely up to date as of the Shanghai EVM upgrade. Yeah, That was the last one, right? I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, we're completely up to date. So any IPs that are included on Ethereum, we are ready to go. Some of them don't work exactly the same because, as I mentioned, Tesla Cell 1, but that will all be very similar to Ethereum. So anything you're used to in Ethereum in terms of EIPs will be there for Etherlink.
Cool. I think that's all the questions for now. If anyone has any final questions, please write them down quickly. But yeah, I just wanted to say to everyone watching, you had some really interesting and good questions. So thank you all for that. Okay, now there's another one here, follow-up question.
Great, yeah.
If that's the case for deployment of EVM contracts on Etherlink, so all examples available on Solidity language are somewhat compatible on Etherlink.
Yeah, they're 100% compatible.
Cool, awesome. Hopefully that makes it easier for you guys to start building straight away.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sasha. It was a really interesting workshop, and you did very well answering all the questions very clearly. And I see another questions coming in. Okay, so that means we can create tutorial series for Etherlink. Do you have any tutorial series, Sasha, you want to share?
I do actually, yeah. I do. Give me one moment, I'll be right there. But yes, we have the one I just sent, right? This video is a little outdated because I think it was like December. Everything is basically the same, but this should work. Let me see if this thing. Here you go. You see my face back when I had longer hair, and that's about EVM on Tesla.
Give me 1 second.
Cool.
Good place to start, and then that was from the workshop I did.
Awesome. There's also more resources in the Hacker Pack for Etherlink, but also just in general resources. So do check those out as well if you're kind of just getting started. Cool. I think that is everything for today. Obviously, if you have any other questions that pop up, or if you want to share like what you're building, share your ideas, brainstorm, all that good stuff, do kind of just write on the Discord zone, and you can tag the Etherlink team, and we'll all be able to see your questions. So thank you once again, Sasha, so much. Thank you everyone watching, and I'm going to let you kind of finish us off, Sasha, with your final words of encouragement.
Sure. Keep building, keep shipping. What we need is people to build, just like everyone. I'm very happy with Encode Club and bringing more builders to the space. So don't feel too stressed about it. Just build something that you find fun for yourself, and I'm sure, and that's really the spirit of it.
100% agree. Okay, cool. I'll see you guys all later then, and have a good rest of your day, evening. Thank you for joining. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Clara, for having me, and thanks everyone for listening. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.